That story happened in my senior year. My girlfriend and I both spent time studying in the library every day. One day she offered to take a day off to prepare my birthday gifts with her. Hearing that, I teased her that just wrapping her in my gift box would be fine. So she pinched my ears and said that I had some shady intentions in mind, right? I looked at her and said that she and I had known each other for a long time and should also consider getting married. I told my girlfriend that I didn't care much about my birthday because I looked quite old compared to the other students. By the way, I told her the story that made me miss school for 2 years and had a bad impression of my birthday. On my 12th birthday, my mother asked me to wear a red triangular paper bag. She said that the year was my year and told me to wear it every day, shouldn't tear it or lose it. Although I didn't like it very much, I still obeyed my mother's orders to wear a string with a red paper bag around the neck. Then I rushed to play with my friends. My friends and I gathered to play marbles together. When it was my turn, something embarrassing happened. When I crouched down, my red underwear was revealed. One of the guys in the group noticed and pulled my pants off. The group kept laughing at me, saying that I had a problem with my gender and thought I was an idiot. I held at him that I wasn't an idiot and told them I wore red underwear because this year was my year and my mother made me wear it. At this time, another guy living next door to my house confirmed that my mother had given me a red amulet and the underwear was related to that amulet. So he teased me and begged me to show the amulet on my neck. A few other friends also came and said they wanted to see my amulet. So I took off the amulet chain around my neck. My friends had never seen such amulets, so they all found it very strange. By the way, I was also joking that this amulet could help see ghosts.
Wow.
But unexpectedly, they believed my lie to be true. They came closer and took a closer look. I was afraid that if my friend held it too hard, it would tear my amulet, so I quickly got it back. But he lunged forward to snatch the amulet from my hand. I showed an unpleasant attitude, saying that this was not for fun. If the amulet was broken, I would be scolded by my mother. But that boy wanted to get my amulet, so he asked me to play marbles. He bet on 3 of the latest comic books in exchange for my amulet. After hearing that, we were all surprised. I had long wanted to read the 3 comic books he talked about, but he wouldn't lend it to us. With the instigation of other friends, I began to think. Yes, wasn't this amulet just a red paper bag? Therefore, he and I would decide whether to win or lose in the game of marbles. But unfortunately, I lost the necklace to my friend because, well, I lost. Looking at his proud appearance, I felt very uncomfortable. Without the amulet, I was just afraid of being scolded when I got home. After the amulet was taken by my friend, I had to walk home. When I got home, I kept quiet for fear that my family would find out that I had lost the amulet. Luckily, they didn't notice. For the next few days, my life went on as normal. Until the following weekend, we arranged to bake sweet potatoes on the hill where we used to go. When everyone was busy building a fire, my friend discovered something. He said he saw a coffin. He ran over and took a closer look. It was a broken coffin. It seemed to have been trapped by a landslide caused by heavy rain 2 days ago. Although curious, the stench emanating from the crack in the coffin lid made us nauseous. We were starting to get a little scared, but my friend didn't want to leave. He stood still, his eyes fixed on the crack in the coffin. Suddenly he turned his head and said with a worried look that he wanted to see what was inside the coffin. I advised him not to be so stupid, but he ignored me and still insisted on pulling it out, so I left, ignoring him. Seeing me ignore him, he aimed at my shame point with his red underwear. He said that I was only a coward. He also said that my amulet was fake, that I was just a liar, and that even our family lied. Frustrated, I turned around and told him that I wasn't afraid of what was inside the coffin and would open it with him to see what was inside. The two of us struggled for a long time and couldn't move the coffin because most of the coffin was still in the ground, and there was also a lot of dirt on top of it. The two of us continued to pull the coffin lid. Suddenly, the piece of wood he was pulling came loose. Before he could prepare, he lost his balance and fell backward. Fortunately, there were no serious problems. The coffin board was casually thrown aside by him. Looking at the pointed end of the board gave me chills. In the coffin, there was an opening big enough for us to get in. I could even try to glimpse the corpse inside. My friend remained unafraid and said he wanted to go inside to find out. In the blink of an eye, he jumped inside and urged me to follow. It was very dark inside, and the smell was disgusting. This coffin was just enough for the two of them to get in, but there was no room to turn around. I felt a dead body in front of me, so I was extremely worried. After struggling for a while, we finally hit a spark. My friend was not afraid at all. Although the light of the match was limited, we could still see the contents of the coffin. We were suddenly stunned by the sight before us, which was a shriveled woman's body. Because he was so scared, the match in his hand fell. Even more frightening, we saw between the legs of that woman still a dead baby. It was only partially protruding from the woman. Terrified, we all felt short of breath and quickly climbed out of the coffin. Seeing the two of us crying while running, the other two friends thought we saw zombies. They quickly asked us what happened. The friend described the situation in the coffin to them while I was breathing heavily next to it. It was probably the fastest run of my life. The potatoes were cooked. They invited us to eat baked sweet potatoes while comforting us. We looked at the two sweet potatoes that had been baked to the point of shriveling like the corpse we just saw now, so we both ran away and vomited. That night, because I was still haunted by the story in the afternoon, I couldn't eat dinner. Then I went to my room to go to bed early. At midnight, I had a high fever again. I was tired and I was dreaming. Suddenly, I found myself not in bed, but locked in a wooden box. It felt like being in a coffin. Someone next to me shouted, making me dumbfounded. I saw a woman with a pregnant woman lying next to me, screaming while banging on the board above. Suddenly, my view turned to the outside and I saw a large group of villagers gathered. I seemed to understand the problem. This woman was being buried alive by the men in the village. When the last piece of land was filled in, the woman's screams could barely be heard outside. More frightening at this time, the woman seemed to be about to give birth, holding her belly and crying in pain. But the oxygen in the coffin was getting weaker and weaker. At this point, the woman seemed to have exhausted all her strength. The scene was so real that I was so scared. I could only cover my eyes with my hands. In my dream, I vaguely heard my mother calling my name. At this time, I had a very high fever and my whole body was hot. My grandmother and mother were very worried. Grandma seemed to have discovered something. She sadly looked at my condition. In the blink of an eye, she discovered that the amulet on my neck was missing. My grandmother quickly went out in a hurry. Moments later, my grandmother came home with a red amulet in her hand. It turned out that she went to my friend's house to get it back. Although annoyed, I still tried to ask my grandmother about the amulet. She said this amulet was very important to me. It helped me to exercise and not be invaded by evil spirits. Then I put on the amulet and fell into a deep sleep. After taking the cold medicine, I immediately fell asleep. The following morning, my condition was basically recovered. Because I didn't eat yesterday, Now I ate like a hungry ghost. At this time, the friend we had baked sweet potatoes with the day before came running over and said that the friend who robbed my amulet was dead. I was stunned as soon as I heard that. I broke out in a cold sweat. I wondered if the female zombie in my dream killed him. My friend said he fell from a tree and died. Now the whole village was gathering to see the situation. More frightening, this was where we saw the coffin earlier. As we passed through the crowd, we saw his parents crying over his body. We were also shocked because his death was so tragic. He died because the wooden coffin lid was broken and thrown aside by him. Unexpectedly, his sharp piece was located under the tree where he took the bird's egg. The elders of the village proceeded to bury his body. My grandmother said that the amulet was my own. Even if he wore it, it wouldn't work. After hearing my story, my girlfriend was amazed. She thought it was a story I made up to comfort her. It sounded like a myth, but in reality, I was only saying what I had witnessed with my own eyes.